Thank you for taking time out. And I've titled this webinar today as Business by Design. And the reason I've done this is because if you look at customer focus, it is not new. 10 years back, if you ask any CEO of most of the companies as to what is the focus of your organization, the answer would invariably come back as customer centricity, customer delight, customer obsession. Yeah, or one of these links, which primarily is that the customer is the focus of whatever we do. And if you roll forward to today, 10 years hence, and ask the same question, in all probability you will get the same answer. So what exactly has changed then? What has changed, in my opinion, is that the emergence of digital technologies has changed our ability to influence the customer experience. And I would even go to the extent of saying that we use digital tools to design, to get customer insights, which even shape the way we do our business, and in some cases even redefine what our business is. I just want to take you through some of these brands. And if you see, I'm sure all of you have heard about these brands. These brands are less than 2 decades old, and some of them are relatively very new. But most of them have changed the way user behavior is today. And they have done it by understanding met as well as unmet needs of the customer, stated, unstated needs of the customer, right? Both of them. And they have changed something or the other in customer behavior. And many of them are experienced digitally today. As I go through this, I wanted to ask a quick question. Do you know who is the fastest growing seller of gold in the country? The seller is growing at more than 150% month on month, sold as much as 175 kgs of gold since launching this business, and is growing at a rate in which it may hold more gold than many countries put together. The answer is Paytm. And Paytm recognized that gold plays a very important role in an Indian family. And the question was really, how do we make the entire process of buying gold easy? Because typically gold is an expensive item. And so, there's a lot of debate and consideration that goes into buying gold. Typically, it is bought during occasions, it is bought during marriages, it is bought during, during special events in one's life. And the question is that how can I make this entire process of buying and storing gold something that is very easy? And this is where digital technologies came in. So you can now, through Paytm, you can buy gold online, you can store it online, you can see what your gold balance is, you can buy it in extremely small installments. So you don't need to really wait till you get a lot of money before you buy. And then you can encash it whenever you need it, and you can get physical delivery, right? So the insight that you got is gold is an important part of savings for an Indian family. And over a period of time, people like to buy gold, but they may not have the investment in large chunks. So they buy it in small chunks. They keep seeing it online, and then they can encash it whenever they can. Now, this is just an example of how digital can play a very important role in changing the way consumer behavior is, in changing the entire business proposition as well. This is a great time. There's never been a better time to be in business, because the kind of innovation that you can do today is a lot more than you could have done in the past. Whether it is on mobility, whether it is using artificial intelligence, or whether it is using social and getting feedback, there's a lot that you can do in the business today, and you can do it at very affordable rates. But also, there's never been a tougher time to be in business. And I say this because there is inherent disruption there in almost every industry. So on one hand, there are opportunities. You can innovate using new digital technologies, and you can get instant feedback. On the other hand, there's also the possibility that you could be out of business, because someone from somewhere could innovate at a much faster rate than you're doing. So that's the reason why I say that's never been a better time to be in business, but there's never been a tougher time also. I just want to move on to look at industry after industry is getting disrupted. And if you look at the Fortune 500 list that was there 10 years back, almost half the companies are no longer in that list. And half the companies probably no longer exist either. But if you look at some examples of disruption, these disruptions are happening across industries, and these disruptions the disruptors coming probably from an organization which is not even within the industry. An example I've taken here is of the automobile passenger car industry, and we all know what is happening. There's a lot of research happening on driverless technology. There's a lot of research happening on electric vehicles. And today, when you ask any of the global automotive manufacturers who your competitor is, you'll get a wide variety of answers, and many of them are not even auto companies and car companies. But even more interesting is that this disruption that is happening in the automotive industry is not limited to the automotive industry alone. Okay, so when a disruption like this takes place, whether it is electric vehicles or driverless cars or change in mode of passenger transportation that comes in, there'll be a lot more disruptions that happen across industries. And this is something that is depicted here in this chart. So it is not only impacts the automotive industry, but it could impact the insurance industry as well. As to who do you sell insurance to now? Okay, so do you sell insurance to individual buyers? But what happens if cars don't get bought and cars in fact get leased or in fact get rented, right? So there is going to be a change in the way insurance is administered. There's going to be a change in which the way the entire taxi industry is going to organize, the rental car industry is going to get organized. And a lot of companies could bundle automotive travel or passenger travel along with some of the other services that they offer. So all in all, it's going to impact not only the car industry, but in fact number of industries as we go along. So I just here want to take a pause and say that we have seen that because of digital technologies, there is disruption. There's new opportunities coming up. And there's a lot of opportunity on one hand and threat on the other hand. Let's come to India now and see how does India stand in this entire era. And I think India is very well poised for this digital disruption or this digital opportunity, either way you look at it, for a number of reasons. One is we are a very young nation, and a large percentage of the Indian population is below the age of 30, and as a result of which, most of the Indian population would have been brought up in an era where they're seeing digital all around them, right? So that's one thing. The Indian consumption market itself is very large, so therefore it means that even if there's a good use case, you're likely to find a lot of buyers for that use case. Let me give you an example. For example, if you look at the e-commerce industry, the retail today, e-commerce is penetrating into tier 2, tier 3, three cities, into smaller towns as they go along. And the proposition is very different from that of big cities, right? The other thing that has happened is the India stack, right? Because of Aadhaar and biometric identification, because of digital lockers, what is happening is there's a lot of innovation happening in how services are being offered to customers. And we all know the example of eKYC that's happened in telecom, happening in banking, okay, which is changed the entire authentication process, which used to take days, which now takes hours. And this entire stack will help us in changing many processes as we go along across many industries. The other advantage that India has is India is not only a mobile first, but a mobile only country for many parts of the population. So we have a large mobile network, and which is getting smarter day by day. So you're getting the penetration of smartphones is increasing. And also at the same time, we have a lot of solutions coming on mobiles, whether it is mobile payments and solutions that are being offered and used primarily on mobile phones. And finally, the consumption of data is now going up, and we're seeing a lot of data being consumed. So that's also a buyer behavior that is changing as we go along. So net, if I have to summarize, I think India is very well poised for taking advantage of this digital opportunity that is there. Just as we did with the mobile phone opportunity, so we leapfrogged the generation, And wherein we had a phone penetration which was very low and a landline penetration which was very low, we leapfrogged it and went to a mobile journey. And similarly, we have an opportunity now to leapfrog and get into the digital journeys, because for many of our consumers who are connected only on phone, this is probably the only journey that they will see. The other thing that I wanted to talk about the Indian millennials. We already said that India is a young country, and a large percentage of the population will continue to be young. But what is increasingly also interesting about this population is this population is a connected population. Okay, a lot of them are on social media. Okay, a lot of them are very active on social media. A lot of them follow brands on social media. A lot of them, are communicate with each other on text, right? A lot of them, go and read reviews and get feedback before they really make a purchase decision. So that is the India of today, and that is the India that we see in the foreseeable future. That they are very connected population that is young and connected to each other. So there will be opinions that will be formed as we go along. But also, that was the rosy side of the market. We know that India is a market which has a lot of promise, which has a lot of potential, definitely has a lot of population. But also, India is a very complex market. So we could make an error of saying, India is a single market, but the realities are different, and they're different parts. The consumer behaviors are different. They could be very differently from the north to the south to the east to the west. Okay, and since you're a single country, you have people moving all over the place. So there is a complexity there in India as well, in addition to the opportunity that is there. Given this opportunity, given this complexity, we are seeing that customer experience is really making a difference, and businesses and brands are rethinking their entire business model, around customer experience. And as I said, customer delight, using customer experience and having customer delight is not something that is new. But what is changing now is that brands and businesses are using digital means and using physical as well as digital means to create a unified experience across and a seamless experience across. So where in the past there could probably have been only a single touch point or two touch points, look at a scenario where you're dealing with a bank or an insurance company, and you're dealing with a bank which probably have a savings bank account and a home loan, and the transactions that you do in a month could be maybe 2 or 3 or 4. And if you're dealing with an insurance company, and especially if it's a life insurance company, probably your transaction with companies once a year or once a quarter, if depends on how the premium is paid. But with the digital and the physical now being connected, you have a lot more opportunity and a lot more moments where you can engage with your customers. Okay, and that is where this entire experience comes to life. So you don't only need to engage with customers at the time they're buying, but you can engage with them on social media. You can pick up interesting trends. You can then communicate with them and so on. So this is really what brands are doing, businesses are doing. They're rebuilding their entire business and brands around the customer experience. And I'll go a step further. So, we spoke about customer experience on one hand. On the other hand, there is also the entire thing about ecosystems. Yeah, and why do I say that? Is because companies and businesses have realized that it doesn't necessarily mean that they need to do everything by themselves. Okay, and in the past we used to say that the best supply chain is the one who wins, and the supply chain is only as strong as its weakest link. And the paradigm has shifted today to where we say that the best ecosystem is the one that will win, right? So it is one who offers a value proposition, which is not only what one company can do, but its company and its ecosystem together can do. Let me give you an example. I put up 2 examples here of Apple and Google, where they are, of course, an ecosystem which has software, hardware, apps. They have the entire app stores. They have the entire ecosystem around building solutions around them. And they've disrupted many industries as they go along. But even if you look at a simple, automotive company, which are getting into connected devices and connected vehicles, you're now connecting an insurer to an automotive company, to a retail outlet, to entertainment, to maps, to everything together, right? So that's an entire ecosystem of service, and we're moving there as well. So now, experience and ecosystem are not divorced from each other because they influence each other. There is a possibility of bringing in ecosystem partners to influence the experience that you give to the customers, right? So they're connected in that way. Uh, a bit about IBM has been focusing on design for pretty long now, and in the last couple of years, there's over 2 billion US dollars that we have invested in creating global capabilities in the area of design. And this is because of the paradigm that we believe that good design is good for business. And in the past, when IBM was typically into hardware, the design was around products that IBM used to make. But now we're primarily into services and solutions, and this is really where design is helping us here as well. I want to talk about the approach. So far, what we have seen is that the opportunity is there, and we have seen that India is ripe for the opportunity as well. Okay, what I want to now talk about, spend the next 10 to 15 minutes on, is really how do we approach this entire opportunity space? Okay, how do we use customer experience? How do you use digital to create the right experience for our customers? Okay, and how do we help clients in reimagining their businesses and helping them reshape the way their businesses need to be? And this is, I found, a very simple approach that we follow, and we've been following it, and I think it is useful for everyone to think about the opportunity and think about the experience around these three dimensions. Think about the experience around the dimension of people. Okay, so people have needs, people have desires, people have wants. Okay, and these desires are really what shapes things to come, right? So if there's a need which is stated, unstated need, and if you're addressing that need, okay, you can build a business around that. So on one hand, you have people who have needs. On the other hand, you have technology which makes it feasible to address that need. And the third is you have business which looks at the viability of meeting that need, right? And if you look at the intersection of all these three, you look at the intersection of people, business, and technology, and that's where you come across how do you create a new experience for a customer, or how do you create a holistic experience for a customer. Now, when people have a need and the business addresses that need, then there is what we call as emotional innovation. Okay, so you're looking at creating a brand. The brand has a certain purpose. The brand addresses a certain need. Okay, and or has products that address certain needs, and there's some emotional connect that you have with the targeted customer, and therefore that's the emotional innovation that you look at, always improving upon or creating a new emotional connect with the customers or your target segment. With the people and technology, it's about functional innovation. Okay, so can you create new services, new solutions that are there with the new technologies that are coming in? Okay, and we saw the example of Paytm and the gold and the online gold that is there. And many customers are creating new products purely because, and I'll talk through some examples as we go along, purely because now digital technologies allow you to create those new services that you can offer to your customers. And business and technology is really about process innovation, something that used to take, and the great example of this is the example of the eKYC, something that used to take 2 days, 3 days, maybe 7 days. If I'm moving from one circle to another, to change my number to the new circle and to get connectivity, other 3, 4, 5 days, the best of experiences would tell me that. And now, because of technology and business technology together, you can do process innovation and bring it down to a couple of hours. Right, so that's process innovation. And what is experience? Experience is a combination, it's the intersection of all of this. Right, so you look at people, you look at needs, you look at how do you fulfill those needs, and how do you create the viability of those needs. So when we look at the holistic customer experience, we look at all these three dimensions. We look at the dimension of people, technology, and business, and see what kind of experience and what kind of innovation we can bring in experience. Just a little bit more about this. So there the three things that we look at is, first, really, what is the why, the what, and the how, right, of this entire approach. So it's one thing to say these are the three dimensions, and we have to address these three dimensions to come up with innovative experiences. So how do we go about doing it? We look at the why of the business. So this is really looks at the brand purpose. What is the business really fulfilling? Why does the business exist? And what are the problems and opportunities that keep coming up as a result of this? And then we get into so what do we do? We understood why do we exist. So what do we do? And we do a design thinking workshop here, and this is to empathize with the customers, to understand further into the needs of the customers, to then look at what are the ideas do we have to solve the problem, and then the how part of it is using the technologies, whether it is digital technologies or whether it is on mobile, whether it is online. How do we use the relevant technologies to convert what we have ideated into the design thinking of saying how do we create a wow experience to actually creating that wow experience, right? So the approach again is you understand the domain and the space in which you're operating. That's really the brand strategy, to say what are the boundaries of why do you exist, and what are the kind of problems that you wanting to solve. And then you look at the customer segments, and you look at the journeys that the customers have taken through a design thinking workshop to identify what new ideas come out that can help solve the problems in a better way. And yours is of course where you'll use digital technologies to start rethinking some of the business processes that you have, and then you'll actually execute it through various digital, and it may not only be only digital, but it could be digital as well as physical channels which address the customer need. The framework that we found very useful when we do this is this entire framework around the IBM design thinking. Yeah, and the IBM design thinking is a framework that starts with a lot of research. So you have a problem statement, and you start with research of the target customer segment to understand, what is the journey of the customer like? Okay, what is the customer's preferences? What does the customer, feel? What does customer do? Okay, what are the pain points in that entire journey the customer has? So there is, it's really a very qualitative, in-depth understanding of the target customer segment. I'll give you an example. When we were doing an example of an insurance customer company that wanted to go digital, they really said that I want to target the millennial customers who because these are the guys who normally are the ones who are very digitally savvy. They're always on their phones, and therefore they're likely to be more amenable to a digital channel. And when we went and understood the segment, we found out that the millennials is a very broad segment, right? And we have to use one more filter, which is a financial savviness filter as well, because you have a lot of people who are digitally savvy but not financially savvy, right? And then you have a segment which is financially savvy but not digital savvy, and then you have a segment which is both, which is financial and digital savvy as well, right? So once we understood that there are these differences that are there, and therefore you cannot just say I'll look at someone who's digitally savvy for my digital business. It doesn't make sense, because that financial savviness is also needed. And then if a person is not financial savvy, you have to look at the journey a little differently from someone who's financially savvy, right? So that's the observe part of what you've got to do, is to observe and understand the trend that is there, then the needs that are there, what are the pain points that are there that a customer has, and then you reflect on what should be the desired state. And this is typically done using a cross-functional team, because you want to get as diverse views as possible. So just to take forward the example of the insurance company, we had people from not only the sales teams and the product teams and the marketing teams, but you also had someone from legal and contracts also there participating in this workshop. And the reason why you had that is because a lot of feedback that we got is when the company issues a policy, there's so much of legal mumbo jumbo that is there, that you don't know what is in and what is out. Okay, so you get a surprise only when you put in a claim. Okay, so if, for example, you're taking a motor insurance and you're putting in a claim, that's when you know that there's a certain limit, certain things are out. So it's just too complicated. And one of the reasons we had the legal team in the room is also to brainstorm and see, how do you create a great customer experience, and what really will protect us from a legal perspective, and what really is not necessary. Okay, so that was the reason why we did that. So reflect is really about thinking about the desired state, thinking about what are the possibilities that are there to address the problem, and what solutions do we have. And one of the tests that we normally do for these solutions is to ultimately get what we call as the power users. And power users are actually sometimes the users themselves, a select group of users who come in, and we say that this is what we propose to do to reduce these pain points, and we test it out with the power users and see whether it makes sense or not. And really, that's a culmination of the reflect part, where the power users also given their inputs of saying whether this approach or these changes that we want to make, is it really making sense or not. And then we get into the development of how do you make it now happen. And this is where both you could use online as well as offline channels to create an end user journey. So you created the journey, you created the wow moments, you got the validation from the power users, and now you go about executing it. And this is again an area where in the digital world things are again not how they used to happen in the past. So in the digital world, again, the way we look at things is doing it in small iterative sprints, so that you don't really spend a lot of time and a lot of effort and and do it in a normal waterfall manner. So you create the entire the wow moments. You put them into sprints. You design, you develop it in an agile manner using the DevOps tools that are there. So you develop and test them concurrently. You get a minimum viable product, put it out there, get reactions, and go on in further sprints. So that's why when you look at a company like Tesla starts saying that I will have an update, just like a software product. I mean, when did you imagine a car having an update coming in every 6 or 8 months, right? So the update is because you're doing everything in an agile manner, and therefore you have one release after another release that is coming in, and you have sprints that are actually creating incremental functionalities. So this is the entire approach that we follow in design thinking, which is right from the observe part, where there's a lot of understanding of customer behavior. And this is again one more important point to note is what is insight. Okay, very often you see that you observe a lot of action that is happening either on your mobile app excuse me. So you observe a lot of action happening either on your mobile apps or on your website, on digital channels, because it is easy to observe. And you see a lot of customers spending a lot of time on certain pages, dropping off at certain points of time, and so on. Now, what really is insight is into understanding why. Yeah, so insight is not into understanding what. So what is really you get to know by observation, and you see that this is what is happening. So a person who buys product A also buys product B is a what. Yeah, and a why is really what gives you insight, right? So that's where it requires an understanding of consumer behavior, an understanding of changes, an understanding of what influences, to understand the why and therefore get insights. And once you get those insights, it is then what you use to reflect and come up with a new process. Right? So I just wanted to put up this saying experience is the center. When we look at any digital reinvention, you're looking at a breakthrough in various ways. So the experience at the center, and you design this experience based on the design thinking that we spoke about in the last chart. Now, how does this manifest itself? This could manifest itself in various ways. It could manifest itself in creating new business models. So you could say that I'm going to create new revenue streams because I've got this new insight that I have. Or you could create new market activation that happens through different channels, through digital channels, and so on. Or the focus of that experience could also be, and I don't want to give you the impression that I'm limiting it only to customer experience, because this could also be the experience of internal customers as well. So this could change the way you operate. Okay, so especially if you have a dealer distributor network, the way you deal with them could be different. The way you deal with your sales personnel could be different, and so on. So this could lead to actionable insights that will also change the way you do things in the future. And of course, this entire new experience could also mean that you re-look at the way your talent is in the organization, because you would start now saying, if I have to enrich the experience, I need to have an orchestrated ecosystem of partners that bring in capabilities that are very different from the capabilities that I have. And if that is the case, then how do you now create that environment in which various capabilities can be brought in from ecosystem partners seamlessly and give a seamless experience to the end customer? And again, therefore, the talent that you need in the organization needs to again be of a very different type, right? So you could use it, it could manifest itself as experience into various forms, depending on what is right and relevant for the organization at a given point of time. I want to just talk about a few examples now. So, I've spoken a lot about, we've spoken so far about the market opportunity, which we think is good. We've spoken about specifically about India, and we think it's a good opportunity to look at digital technologies and how we could take advantage of the digital opportunity that exists as a result of which. And then we saw some approaches that we follow. The approach of looking at people, business, and technology and its intersection to create experience innovation. And then experience in the center, how do you look at, how does it manifest itself across new business models, across, changes in operation and changes in ecosystems and so on. So it could manifest itself in different ways. I also want to now talk through some examples of, how customers have actually used experience to change, to bring about a perceptible change in their business models. But before I get there, it's also an era about co-creation. So this is when you talk about ecosystems and ecosystems coming together, it's also about how the ecosystems can complement each other's, and you can help co-create to create a better experience for your end customer, right? And this is something we're doing. We have studios, which the pictures of which I have put up here, and it is in studios such as this that we have different people come together, ideate together, co-create together, and then look at how do we create new experiences for the end customer. Done work with a number of clients, both India and globally, and and this is a space which is, as I said, everyone's looking at. I have this great new digital opportunity. How do I use the digital opportunity, and how does it manifest in the various dimensions of opportunities that exist? And I want to take some examples. I'll take some case studies of how this has happened. So Sherwin-Williams is a good case study. Is an interesting case study. Okay, this is a paint company, and it's a paint company which has been around for very long, right? It's a 150-year-old company which is turned into a category innovator. And all of you know that paint is a very old business, and this is a business where people decide to paint their home, and then they really decide as to what type of paint, what color of paint, and so on, right? Internationally, the paint is a little different business, because a lot of people paint their homes themselves, right? So this is about Sherwin-Williams, and Sherwin-Williams really understood that the challenge that is there is that the customers did not want them to be in the business of paint. Yeah, so they were in the business of paint. They were in the business of providing colors, and they realized that the experience of painting is really what the customers are looking at. And what do I mean by that? It's not about the entire experience of painting. How do you leverage technology in this entire thing? And how does technology come about? If I'm in a position to say that if I choose this particular color, how would my house look? Okay, or even if I go a step further and say that I'm walking on the street and I see a lovely color, I want to capture that color and say hey, this is the color I want for my house. So that's really where experience comes in, and I'm able to use that experience to then paint my house, and that's really the opportunity that they were looking for. So if you look out here, they want a particular shade, and they want to see how that particular shade would look in their house. Fantastic. So what Sherwin-Williams do? Sherwin-Williams actually created these digital tools and focused on the experience of the customer, of saying that this is how we experience this entire process of of painting, right from from where you're getting inspiration from, to what is the color and how would that look like in your particular house. And this is how they started engaging with their end customers, right? and uh, and of course this they've seen pretty good success, okay, in this particular model. If you look at the color snap studios and the engagement that they've seen a lot of engagement that their end customers have done through the digital channels that has gone up, and of course their business has of course grown at a significant pace as a result of this, right? Um, so this is an example of a paint company, which is a traditional business, how they've used digital technologies to create a new engagement model with their end customers, and more importantly, create the experience that gives the customer a great feeling and wants to and looking at the entire painting as an experience as opposed to paint as a business. I'll talk through. So that was an example of a paint company. I just want to talk through an example of Medtronics, which is in the healthcare space. Okay, and they have they really they recognize that sugar is or blood sugar is really a problem that many people face. And traditionally, therefore, you've got to take medication for blood sugar. You've got to be conscious about the kind of food you're eating, the time at which you're eating, the kind of exercise you're doing, and so on and so forth. Okay, and what did Medtronics do is it created an app called Sugar IQ, which looks at artificial intelligence from Watson to power the app to make it suitable for people who have diabetes. Now a little bit about diabetes. Diabetes is a disease that is pretty significant there, and a lot of it's something that that goes on for pretty long, and people have to control it as they get through medication, through treatment as they go along. And it's a process that is a very involved process with diabetic patients, and its implications are also very severe. So if you have people who are diabetic and they don't take the medication on time, it could result in various organ failures and amputation and so on and so forth, right? So it's a pretty serious implication. It's a pretty serious treatment that needs to happen, and this treatment needs to happen over a period of time. So a lot of the care happens with the patients themselves, and this is really what needed to get addressed through the app. Now, what is the insight that Medtronics got is the lives that people live are very, very different from each other. Okay, and therefore, if you're really looking at supporting the treatment of diabetes, for it to be most effective, it has to be very personal. It has to be linked to the personal lifestyle that a particular person having this disease has. And as we all know, different people will have different lifestyles, and different people would have different characteristics. So the insight is, since we all live differently, can we have an app which is a lot more personal and therefore can give you personal support? And this is where Sugar IQ comes in, because Sugar IQ is a companion for you, which is actionable in real time, which helps you, which keeps track of your disease and keeps giving you personal updates as well. So it is powered, as I said, by artificial intelligence, and that's really what makes it conversational. You can have a discussion, and the app can give you feedback and answers back as well. And what really makes it personal is it can keep track of your historical events that have happened, historical data that has happened. It can do a deeper dive into your events and so on and so forth, right? So that's really what the app does, and it can also provide you valuable insights. Most importantly, it's not only about providing you some statistics from somewhere, but it can give you insights, saying that the example here is you're eating a particular food. What is the implication that it has? How long will that help you for, and so on. And for people who are diabetic, these valuable insights can prove very valuable for them as they undertake activities or plan to undertake activities. An example of which is this example of saying that I'm going to go on a hike, and how much food do you think I should bring, right? or the app giving you an alert saying that, I've noticed that you probably will go low within the next 3 hours, right? So therefore you can avoid the event that is likely to happen. So in all these cases, it is very personal, and it's at the same time, as easy to use as an app which people are used to using, right? So this is again an example of how digital technologies have helped in a particular case. Now, if you just think that this is all about interaction that happen one on one, it's not only that. It could happen, and in some examples I wanted to put an example of idea here. Again, this is an example where the objective was, how do you reduce the bounce rate and create stickiness. So there was a redesign that was done in the entire digital interfaces of idea, and both on its website as well as its a mobile app. And you actually saw what the experience should be, what the experience is as. So we went through the entire curve that we spoke about: observe, reflect, and then realize. And we went through this and got the changes done on. We created a new experience both on the website as well as on the app, right? And Janalakshmi is another example. This is of a financial service provider. Again, this digital experiences not only for the end customer, but also for the sales force feet on street, who are actually going and collecting collecting money from the end customer. So digital technologies actually have changed this. I want to give an example again of an infrastructure company. This is a company called Dilip Buildcon, which is one of the largest infrastructure road construction companies in India. And this company said that we want our focus is really on insights to investors. And this is where where we looked at their entire website and said, how digitally, how are you connecting with your target audience, which is the investors? And do the investors know what kind of projects you're doing? How do they know what kind of capabilities are you building as you're going along, and so on? So what we've done is we revamped their entire digital interfaces that they have to provide the kind of insights and information that an investor would be interested in. And you are interested in providing those investors. And obviously we've seen the impact of that. 2 months within the launch, the metrics have almost doubled that of competition, almost 3 times what they were originally doing. So I've given you some examples of how experience can make a difference. Experience can change ways in which things happen. I also want to, as I end this discussion, I just want to summarize, and then leave you with a thought. We started off by talking about digital disruption and the digital opportunity. We spoke about the Indian opportunity, and we all think that Indian opportunity is significant out there. And then we looked at the approaches, and then some case studies of how these approaches have been used and what is the experience that is given. The thought that I want to leave you with is the experience is not limited to your competition set. The experience is not limited to something that you have seen even within the last few days or the last few months or whatever, right? So people who have the best experience, they start expecting that as the experience from everyone else. So your best experience could have been with the e-commerce site. Your best experience could have been from an Ola or a Uber. Your best experience could be from a Book My Show. Your best experience could be from a PVR that you've gone and seen a movie in, and that is the experience that people start benchmarking you against. So this is really why you really need to relook at the experience that you're providing your customers in the digital age, and whether it is the right experience that you're providing them, right? So with that, I've come to the end of this discussion, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to take those questions.
Thank
Thank you, everyone.